In this video, we'll be talking on Python dictionary, and we have seen a list. What a list is, we did say a list simply is a collection of ordered items. In Python, it's a data structure that handles items that are ordered, mutable. And so that's why we talked about a list, and we said in order for you to create a list, you need to use a square bracket, and we said a list can have multiple data types: string, integers, floats, booleans, what have you. And so it can be a mixed data frame. A list will still take. And we said if we're creating a data systems that needs to be modified later, a list could be ideal. Then we went further to talk about tuples, which were similar to a list, but the difference was that tuples are not mutable, immutable, which means once you've created, you cannot change. And so we talked of scenarios where you can use tuples, like we could use tuples in creating coordinates, because you don't need to change them, things like phone numbers, ID cards, and the rest. And so we did see how we create tuple using parentheses or brackets, as we often call. And then the next data structure that we are looking at is a dictionary. And if you can see from we said a dictionary is a built-in Python data type. And again, before we go in, if in the previous video or lecture we did talk about what is a data structure. We said data structures are ways to organize, store, and manipulate data in Python. And so these data structures help us to be able to store data, to organize data, to store it, and to manipulate and do everything with data. So it gives us an efficient way of managing data. So if this data structure were not there, it would become very difficult for you to be able to store and manipulate data. So we have seen it list, we have talked about tuples, and now we have talked about dictionary. So a dictionary, again, is a built-in, which means the structure has already been developed, and you only have to use it the way it has, with its properties, what it can do and will not do. And so it is also it comes with two things that you need to note about a dictionary. That is this a key and pair type. So we must have a key, we must have what the values. So we have key and value. So that's how, and it is one of the most versatile and widely used data structures in Python. A dictionary is highly utilized, and one of the reasons you see when we start making progress, when we get to pandas and the rest, you see that it plays a key role, because we could always be able to develop our data. So now, a dictionary, in terms of definition, is a collection of key and value pairs. So you need to have a key and you need to have a value. For instance, we could basically say, maybe if you have something, say name, and we say Henry, then this is the key and this is the pair. So that's what we're saying. Now that's it. Keys are unique and immutable. So if you have created, say, this name, it is unique. You cannot have two names with the same two names that are the same. For instance, if I come and give another name here, then they will reject. If I give like this, they will be different, because Python is case sensitive, which means capital letters, small letters, mix of them, they're treated as different. So that's what we mean, that it must be what unique and immutable. Once you have created a name like this, you cannot easily change it compared to now again. The keys can be strings, it can be numbers, it can be tuples. There is no problem. It's possible to take any of that one. And dictionary are mutable. Dictionaries or values can be of any data type. It can be string list, and we can also even have dictionary. We talk about nested dictionary, dictionary within a dictionary. It's all possible. Now, dictionary are mutable, which means once you create, you can modify. And we say most often you are modifying the values. You are not necessarily modifying maybe we can modify actually. We can modify after creation. So you can always and to create we use curly braces as we'll see. So that being said, that is the first thing we're discussing with respect to a dictionary. And so a dictionary basically gives you the possibility of creating a variable in a way that we have done. Now, in a real world situations, we could use dictionaries in terms of maybe if you are creating somebody's profile. Maybe if you go on Facebook, for instance, you sign on Facebook, there's always a place for you to fill in your name. There's a place to fill in your email, maybe your gender and your age. That's a kind of a dictionary because there's a placeholder for a name. When you put the name there, that name is collected and stored. Your email is collected and stored, this and that, and so that information is collected in the form of a dictionary, and so many people can fill it, and that information, that data is collected and stored. Or maybe in a product data, you want to have maybe a product, the product category, the product price, the product whatsoever properties you may want to give out. So in sum, that is the basic idea about what a dictionary is, and we are going to look at it in terms of in more details. Now, that said, what are we saying? We are basically saying that if you're looking at a dictionary, you need to know that a dictionary is mutable. A dictionary, there is an order. A dictionary has keys and values. A dictionary can be of mixed data types. A dictionary can be of mixed data type. A dictionary can be of mixed data types, and a dictionary should not have or cannot have duplicate keys. So keys must be unique and don't repeat themselves. So that's what we're saying. So if that is, you understand that, it means you are comfortable with what a dictionary is. So that's it. How do we create a dictionary? So creating a dictionary. Now if you want to create a dictionary, we've said the basically a simple way for you to create a dictionary, and so we use curly braces when we're creating a dictionary. An example could be let's say a simple example would be that we are creating student information. Okay, like we said, you can create a dictionary. Understanding what a dictionary is and creating it are two very important things. So we can create a dictionary using this sign. For instance, if you look here, we are student. We're creating a dictionary which is a student. And so let me just create this again for us to see. Just a student that we have here is the same one. Now you open your brackets are open, and you can give the information student, let me say level as a variable name. So since it's a string, it should be level, I'll say level, and I put 1, right? Or let me say student 2, so to differentiate. So I put level student 2 level, and that is separated with what you see. What is important to take note is the key. This is the key separated with a colon, and this maybe fees, if the student have paid fees, and the fees here maybe 50,000. So I'm indicating that the student have paid fees of 50,000. Again, we separate a comma, and we say that what again, maybe subject, and data science. Now what matters is, if I come here, let's start with the first student. We have the key, we have the so the student, we have a name, and here's John. If you print this, we'll have an output. So let's just print this and see what we get. So we have an output, John. Name is John, age is 21, major is data science. If you come to what we just created now, which was just demonstrate again, and we print it, there should be an error. Where is that error coming from? The error should be coming, let's look at it, column. Let me see where the error is. So we have an error. Okay, I see where the problem is. After 1 there was no comma, so we put a comma. So if I print, I'm going to print, just say student 2, and you have our output, and as easy as that. So what is important to take note here is that we have again our keys. So in a dictionary we basically have the keys and have the value. And now this is very important, because when we get to data analysis or data, we can easily transform this into a data set. For instance, I could just say student, just a preview of what may come, and so I just say df equals to, I will need to import a library. Just bear with me. Import, if you don't understand this, please don't bother much. Import pandas as pd. So just to show you something, so don't bother much, because you understand it later. So let's import pd as this, and I say df, which is like a data frame, should be pd dot data frame, and this f is capital letter. If I pass my student 2, so if I print student 2 here, I print pd data frame. Let's see where the problem is coming from. So we have our student 2 here, and again, if we print it, we should be able to have our output. Now I wanted to show you something here with respect to how we can convert this into a data frame. But the issue is that here, to solve this problem, we need to come and convert this into a list. And so I think that may be a little bit complex for you, but just bear with me what I'm doing here. Know that's something you ought to understand, and if you want to, so if you print this now, it comes out. So I wanted to show you how it will appear in this format. Basically that's why, and this like data. So this becomes now your variable name, and these are different fees. So if you add another state of student, as we'll go down, you'll see that we start populating it with data. This is we said dictionaries. We can also try to index it using a certain order, because there is an order. So from what we said, so that being said, this particular aspect here is a kind of fast forward, but which I just wanted to give you a clue how dictionaries are important in the world of data science, and how you can always take dictionaries and convert them to data frames for analysis. Now that being said, we've talked about how to create. We say we should use this. We can also create a dictionary that we'll use later. Let's say I want to just create a dictionary and keep for future use. let me call it feature dict. Maybe I'm developing a system, so I can just say I pass it, and I don't put something here. So anytime I want to put something, I just need to call by this name because I've created it already. So if you print the output, you discover that it will just be empty because there's nothing here. So that's why if you print this, it gives you an empty. This because there is nothing there. So how do we create? We just create an empty dictionary, and so once we create that and keep, we know that we can use it whenever we want. So if I print that, if I just print again, just to check and see if it's a dictionary. So let me almost here. I said type again. We saw this in our previous lecture. So that's a short form of dictionary. Now let's say we're creating a dictionary, and so about somebody, there are attributes that we want to get, features of somebody, or we want to collect data. Imagine that you are trying to collect data, and so when you are trying to collect data, you want to collect information about a person, like demographic information. So we could use a dictionary to do that. For instance, I say, let me just call this participant, so that it should be more explicit for you. If I put participants and say participant will give his or her name, will give her age, and will give the city where she belongs. That is demographic information, or he or she belongs. So if I come here and I put participant here, and put participant here, and then I print it, so this seems to be an issue, spelling errors. This is might be. So when I print participant, it will give me this information, and I can read this as Alice, who is 25 years of age and lives in Boya. So that is information that I'm controlling. So in other words, it gives you a possibility to collect information from your participant, giving some certain attributes that you have, and we can collect as many persons as possible. And so that is how we are able to use this. Now, another thing to take note is that you can also use the dict constructor. The dict constructor is basically saying that, like we saw in a list or in a set that we in a tuple, where you tuple the keyword tuple to create, we can do the same thing here. So let's say we are creating again information about a person. We basically say now let me use different driver, and I say dict. So it turns to blue. Why is it turning to blue? So once I do that, I may not necessarily to put the curly braces that we have been using. So driver, I say drivers height. So I need to put it drivers. If I bring in a key height, and I say equal to, so I just pass. I use the equal to sign. I say Steve, and I could now say comma age or fees again, and I say 2000 or 3000, whatever you want to, and I say group, and I say 4. So if I print driver, I have this information. And how do I know that this is a dictionary? If I say type again, and I say driver, they will tell me it's a dictionary. In other words, what are we saying? You can use the keyword dict to create a dictionary without necessarily going through the keys and other way indicated, or using the curly braces approach. The curly braces says again, for a quick review, we open curly braces, the key, this and that. But if we use the dict, we can just this and use the equal sign, so this column goes away. That is some slight differences you may not notice, but that the column goes away and we are able to. So that being said, we have created another example here for you to see. So you have multiple examples for you to be able to understand. So the most important thing is ability to understand what we are doing. and you focus more on the on getting this basic concept. They look very basic, but they're very vital when you want to be doing your work. And so by the time we have gathered all this, I normally call this as virtuals. Virtuals are like food that you need in a journey. So you're undertaking a journey, you need to get some of these things. Okay, so that being said, the next we want to talk of is accessing items in a dictionary. And let's say we're creating, again, we've seen a student, we have name, we have genre, we have age. So how can we access items from here? There are different ways we can do that. For instance, let's say we have the driver that we saw earlier that we created. So we have driver that we created and want to, so we could say print. And so what are we printing? A driver, brackets. We want to get information about the driver, and we are very much interested in the fees. So we say fees. Let's see where the error is coming from. So fees, they will give you that information. Now, what are we saying? You want to access items using the key. So we're using the key. So it's like accessing item using key. Here, let's say here, using the key. So what's the key here? The key is fees. Or if you come to this scenario here, we have what? The name. So the name is John. So we could change the name and put age. They will be able to give us that age that the person has. So that's what is important. So we can access items using the key, or we use, as we'll see, the values depending on what we are trying to achieve. But this particular point, so again, we use a print function. Even without the print function, if we just put student here and we put this, it should still be able to give us the output. So student, so it's just indexing. We talked about it earlier, and so that is what we are trying to do here. Now there's another method which we may say this is safer. It's safer. The reason that it's safer is that it will be able to give you information in case you try to access something that's not there. They will try to guide you and say that this thing is not available. So again, if we come to our driver case, so we put driver here, and driver, since that's what we created, and it's preferably, I would prefer that we use it, and we put again fees, we print, they will give us. Now they're giving us fees to be the return. This is the value. Now if you put driver here, so we're using the get item function. The get function. The get function is a we say .get brackets open, and you pass what you want that they should get. So in this second thing, we say driver, and we say get. Let's assume that we are asking for the driver's license number. So let's just put license. License, I think something like this. License something like this, if I'm not making a mistake. License should something like this, and so we try to get it. So we say not found because amongst the keys that we have here in the item that we created, in the driver that we created, there was no item there as what license. We don't have any item here as license. If you come out put height, let's check height. Since there was item there as height, we say height, and we print, it gives us tips, right? It doesn't tell us we're not found, because at least we indicated here. What happens here, take note with this code, is that we say in case they don't get it, they should print not found. So that is the advantage of using get, that you specify the action they should give you in case they don't, and rather than giving you an error, they should not give you an error, they should say not found. It's a kind of an error, but it is a customized error. So they basically tell us that that item is not found in our list. So I think that is it for that aspect of. Now we can equally modify. Now we can modify, and to modify we can either use a key to modify, and so we're trying to use a key to modify. We want to modify. Now we're dealing with student, and so what we do is that we have given the student, we have given maybe the student let's look at what student has as attributes. Again, we have the name, the age, and we are trying to add something to modify by adding the grade. And so we go to student and we say, okay, go to student and add the grade, and the grade should be A. So that we say name is John, the age is 21, the grade is A. So let's use again our own example that we created, driver, and implement the driver, and we say, what are we adding? We're adding distance. Let's just say distance that the driver should cover, distance, and so the distance should be 30 kilometers. So the distance is 30 kilometers. So if you're putting 30 kilometers, let's just put 30. So that should be an integer. So if you print this and then we print back drivers, now you see that distance 30 kilometers has been added. So we have modified. That's how we modify. We are able to modify by trying to. Now this modification is by adding something. What we just did is we added another key and its pair, right? A key and its value. So it's a pair. Remember we talk about pair. So we added a key and its value. So we may want to update with an existing value. So we are updating an existing value. Seen from here, we just have to index what we are updating. We want to update student age. We have discovered that the student now is no more 21. The student has gone up to 22. So we basically come out, and if you print that, you have the new item where the student age has been updated. So let's use our own example again. We are dealing with driver, and we index. So what are we trying to update? Let's update the distance. So we say distance, which is what we have, and we say that the new distance should be equal to 60 kilometers. So if you print back driver, you discover that the new distance now is 60 kilometers. Now let me see, there seems to be distance, this and that. Did we add? Okay, I see here the mistake. There's a mistake in that. There's a mistake here. Let me, instead of let me try to show you what has happened. So look at the distance. The distance was wrongly spelled. So that's why we add this and this. It ought not to have double, but we spelled the distance wrongly, and so that's why we've replaced the existing now with 60. So let's just say we want to update something again, and what do we have? Let's update the name. And so again, let me create this just to give you that different dimension. So instead, the height, okay, the first thing under driver was height. We want to update the height. So the height now, we are saying that the new height, did we give the height earlier? Look at where I wrote height, when I wrote base Steve Massa. Well, but the concept applies. So let's update the height. There was initially Steve, which is a mistake, and so it's a good example. So the height is 70. So if you print You see now height now becomes 70. Initially it was Steve, which is wrong. So you discover that that's an error. You want to update. So I think example is more appealing in this scenario, because we want to say we made a mistake earlier. We're updating it now to the height to be 70. And so we could also remove items. And to remove items, we use the delete key. So the del key, which just stands for delete. And so let's say we want to delete. We can delete using the keys. And so if we print this, the update, you discover in the new, this will not have the length. So let's go back to our driver and discover that we are trying to delete. So what are we deleting? We say del driver, and what do we have? We had a mistake, which we spell this down here wrongly, and so we want to take care of that, and by just simply deleting. So you just pass the item, and so if you print our driver, either you use the print bracket driver, and so you discover that let's see, where's the error? Okay, there's an error here. It's very common to not identify this. So that distance has been removed, so which was an error. So that is how you can use to delete things in a dictionary. We could also pop. Pop means we saw pop earlier when we were talking about list. We said pop means you want to delete the last item, and so if you take pop here, you discover that they deleted what? Pop-ish. We said they should pop-ish, so we want to pop-ish, so they deleted ish. So in our driver, we say if we decide to say that they say ish goes to the pop, you say maybe we want to pop what? Group. So group, you say group equals to driver, right, dot pop. What are we popping? We're popping group. So say group, which is a key, and so if we print driver, group should not be there again, which seems to have an error. So where is the error coming from? Spelling. Most often when you see an error, you check first with spelling. There should be an error. Okay, let me see where the error is. Okay, I think, let me see. Now I see where the problem is. I see where the problem is. We don't have pop group in driver. We don't have group in driver, so that's why there's an error. So let's see if we put none. Yourself, how's the problem? Yes, so I should have been printing none if there's no driver, but the issue is that there's no group. If you print driver, discover that we don't have that group item. It's already removed from it. And lastly, we could clear. So clear means if we go back, you want to say driver here, and so if you print, you will see there will be an empty driver. If you print it, it will be empty. So if you try to driver, it will just be empty because there is nothing there. So in sum, what are we saying? Dictionary, we have keys which return all key values. You can access that. Return all the values in the dictionary. Items return a view of all key value pairs. Then we can update, we can get, we can pop, and we can clear. It helps us to be able to remove things. Now we could even iterate over a dictionary. For instance, for the student that we just created, we could reiterate and say they should print us using the keys. So say they should print us, and what is there? You see name. So since we have delete most of the items, we will not have anything. Unfortunately, even for the student, the driver that we shared, we have also cleared everything from there. Alternatively, let me just come back to where we created the driver, and let's create. We created the driver item. Where did we create driver? We created driver. We created driver somewhere here. So along the line, we deleted that code, so that's why it's not there, and we couldn't access it. That's why we had an error down. So if you come back here now, we want to read. We say go for the driver. For driver, print keys. So you see that they will give us height, fish, and group. They go through, so you can iterate over via key for key in driver, print key, so they will be able to print. This is important. Maybe you've collected data, you want to just get the columns or the rows, the columns, which basically represent variable headings. You iterate that, and so it will help you in that. Another thing is that we could as well get values. So we say for student in this, get us the values will be able to give us. So for val in student dot values, print us value. There's an error, so because I did not, so the print us value. And in a similar way, using our own, we say that for value in driver dot values. So what should happen? Don't forget this column, please. It's very, very important. Print us, say value. So they'll print you everything that is there. We can as well even print. So we can print either using keys or we print using values. In either case, I think it goes. Let me check something. So you must put this dot values. So before you have adequate results. So in sum, we are saying that you can access things. We've seen how to access things. So a dictionary basically helps us to be able to create data. For instance, we could be dealing with subjects, and we give our subjects. For instance, we have subjects. We're creating a dictionary of subjects, and we can even take from a list first. We said we have a list, and so we have subjects, and we convert them to a dictionary. And so we must be careful with immutable default, because once you're dealing with a dictionary, it gives you that possibility to change things, update. So we could access and modify, and we could equally remove item using pop. We could update, and so we could view items in a dictionary using viewed keys, and we could iterate over items in a dictionary. So basically, that's what we'll cover for a dictionary. There are much that you can study and learn more, but since we are at a page, I think this will be all for this video. See you in the next video as we talk about sets and other items, so other data structure. Until then, see you in the next video.